This is From Dirt We Grow, and I am your host, Stephanie Kendall. I appreciate you being here with me for today's episode, which is we're taking a look at change, changing routines, changing our mind, the stigma behind it, what it looks like, what we can do to maybe get past that stigma, get past our fears. We're going to take a look at why it's important to do so, to get past our fears and to look at a different perspective of the topic at hand, which also we will cover a few other topics that relate to the idea of changing our minds. And before we get to that, though, I appreciate all of your likes and your subscribes, and please share. And don't forget about the comments. Comments, leave suggestions. If you have an idea for a future episode, please drop that in there as well. I'd love to hear it. I'd love to hear what you guys are thinking, what you have to say. So, to get into it, this first topic that I want to talk about, I want to point out something very, very important that needs to be said, needs to be thought critically, very much about, because there are people that are trying to make us believe certain things about other people, and that it's just not the case. I cannot reiterate enough that the ones at fault, are not your neighbors. It's not immigrants. It's not Black people, women, LGBTQ plus community. Problems in the country that we face over time, they have grown due to the fact that the government has not looked at the root problems of serious issues within our country that are just band-aided. They put a band-aid over these problems because it's easier, it's cheaper, and then they want to put blame on other people. They say, hey, this group of people is the problem. We tend to believe it. We tend to have these biases against people, blaming them for the problems in our country when the real culprit is the government. So I want to discuss a few topics and explain to you just what part of it is band-aided and what the real root problem is that should be being addressed, and it's just not. So let's start with mass incarceration and crime. The band-aids they put on it are more policing, harsher sentencing, building more prisons, while the root problems are poverty, underfunded schools, lack of mental health and addiction support, systemic racial biases. These are the root problems that are not being addressed that, if fixed, could alleviate many of the problems that we have in this category. The result is that jails are too full, so they build more prisons. The cycles of poverty and trauma continue. It's a cycle. It's not being addressed properly. Now, the next topic is homelessness. The band-aids are clearing encampments and temporary shelters, while the root problems that are not being addressed are lack of affordable housing, mental health crises, the wage stagnation, and inadequate addiction support. If we look at gun violence, they put band-aids on it with thoughts and prayers, limited surface level background checks, metal detectors in school. The root problems are the deep cultural issues around violence, easy access to high powered weapons, the mental health stigma again, and lack of community investment in regards to the healthcare costs. We put band aids on it by subsidies and partial insurance coverage expansions, while the root problems are the for profit healthcare system itself, pharmaceutical lobbying, lack of preventive care focus. With in regards to climate change, we put band aids on it with small tax credits, recycling campaigns, voluntary pledges by corporations, while the root problems are really the fossil fuel dependence that we have, the corporate influence in policy, systemic environmental issues, and weak regulatory enforcement. The student loan crisis has band aids on it as well, temporary payment freezes, small forgiveness initiatives for certain jobs, while the root problems are actually the skyrocketing tuitions, predatory lending practices, and the declining state investments in public education. Moving on to the immigration system, they put band aids on it with building these walls and the deportation surges. The root problems are the broken visa systems, failed foreign policies, exploitative labor practices, and no clear long term paths to citizenships. These are major issues in our society that we do not deserve band aids placed on them and say, hey, I fixed the problem, because it's not fixed. The root issues are still there. The root issues are not being addressed. The government often treats symptoms, not causes, because real solutions threaten entrenched power structures, profit systems, or just require truly transformative, which means uncomfortable changes. And we're going to move right into that. Now, it's been a while since we've talked about some self-reflection, some things that could help ourselves grow as individuals, some things that we could share with other people that may need to hear the message. I'm going to share with you a little blog that I wrote. This is just something I had wrote a while ago, but it applies, so I'm going to use it. This is changing the stigma around change. We have all been there. It's that moment when you realize that something you're used to is about to be altered in some way or another. And all you want to do is hold on for dear life to the comfort of knowing what to expect. No matter the context, change is not met with enthusiasm. Change is scary. Change is different. Different is unknown. The unknown is feared, and fear equals threat. So we cling to the familiar, to the routines that lull us into a sense of security. It is the foundation of our comfort zone. We fear the loss of control, the uncertainty of what lies ahead, and the vulnerability it generates within us. It's not met with a warm welcome. But the truth is, just as time will not stop its movement, neither will evolution. And in order for evolution to thrive, changes must be made to keep up with time. Gripping so stubbornly to the past, it keeps you stuck in stagnancy, hindering your ability to grow, to lend yourself to the potential heights of wisdom growth can provide. The only path to growth is change. So I'm going to ask you, what if we start to view the idea of change from a different perspective? Rather than fear the possibilities or the unknown, we welcome the opportunities change can bring. Now that we're equipped with the knowledge that change is inevitable, embracing it will benefit us far more than the attempt to control it. It is not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change. Charles Darwin said this. George Bernard Shaw said that growth is impossible without change, and those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything. In other words, fear doesn't have to mean threat, different doesn't have to be unknown, and change doesn't have to be scary. Thus ends my little vlog writing, but to go on from there, it's not always easy to change your mind, to change your patterns or your routines. But once you know why it's necessary, once you have an understanding of what will be gained from making that change, it may be a little easier to implement a new approach. Many things in life demand change, but keeping in mind what's been discussed thus far, it goes to be said, it needs to be said that there's a huge difference between changing a routine, such as taking a new route to work, and changing deeply held beliefs. Changing your mind challenges our identity, our values, our sense of security on a much deeper level. Changing our mind about something we believe to be true is harder to do because our culture often equates being wrong with failure. So, changing our mind is to admit we were wrong, admit we were at fault. And for that reason, we tend to cling to the outdated or misinformed ideas out of fear or pride. However, the ability to let go of your pride and face your fears is actually a strength and not a weakness. The ability to admit you were wrong is a strength, not a weakness. Because in doing so, we experience personal growth and show courage. Next time something or someone challenges a belief that makes you question the validity of it, try, instead of looking at it like saying, "Oh, I was wrong," put a positive spin on it by saying, "I've learned something new." Now we're going to have the conversation about something that seems to have morphed into something else almost unrecognizable. It just seems to have not been much pushback or resistance to this kind of change. And yes, I'm talking about Christianity and what it looks like today. Now, I know religion is one of those, I'm very aware, religion is one of those taboo topics, but so is politics, and I don't have a problem speaking my mind there. This is one of those conversations that needs to be had, and some questions deserve real answers. So, jumping right in, I'm going to just say truthfully that the loudest voices proclaiming their Christianity often seem to embody the exact opposite of what being a Christian actually means. And the most basic fundamental ideals include loving God, all of his children, loving your neighbors, striving for justice and peace, building community, and treating people the way that you want to be treated, the way Jesus would treat them. Now, if you can't honestly say you're doing your best to live by these very basics, you have not earned the right to call yourself a Christian, and you shouldn't. I mean, when did we start measuring faith by how loudly we shout our beliefs instead of how quietly and consistently we live by them? When did serving others become about power and control? And when did compassion turn into contempt? The widespread deviations from Jesus' original teachings are everywhere. Jesus taught love and forgiveness, but what I see is hate and an unwillingness to let go of grudges. Jesus warned us about the dangers of wealth and power, and we see exactly how greed has taken over. He practiced radical inclusivity and taught us not to discriminate, yet all I see is hate, bias, prejudice, inequality, judgments, and it's coming from those who claim the loudest to follow him. A lot of people have weaponized faith. These self proclaimed Christians who lead with fear and contempt do more than misrepresent faith. They're disrespecting God, Jesus, humanity, and ultimately themselves. This isn't about attacking beliefs, it's about reminding people of what Christianity is about. Are we really following Jesus or just using his name to justify our own fears and agendas? Take a moment and truly reflect. Are your words and actions in alignment with the love you claim to stand for? Because at the end of the day, the call to be a Christian is a call to be more loving, more inclusive, and more forgiving, rather than more powerful, rather than judgmental, and certainly not hateful. If we truly want to honor our faith and ourselves, we have to be brave enough to ask these hard questions and humble enough to change our answers. So, this would be a good time to put into place the mind changing exercise that we learned about earlier in the show and see if it applies. Now, we all know someone who this refers to and who could benefit from it. Please share this with someone you know. Please share it with everybody you know. And let's get humanity back on track. Let's get America back on track. I want to thank you so much for being here, for listening. Thank you for sharing the content. Thank you for your subscribes. And I will see you next week. This is from Dirt We Grow. Have a great week, everybody. See you next Tuesday.